But Trey, I'm actually going to kick it to you here. And one of the questions as we discuss quarterback play starts, I think, with the South Carolina Gamecocks, who is comes in at number 6 in our contender ranking here this evening. And Lenora Sellers had a tremendous end to 2024. He put it all together, his mobility, the arm, the decision making, and gosh darn it, it's really hard to bring him down in the open field. But there's a lot of questions maybe with the support around him this year. And South Carolina is certainly going to be a trendy championship uh, pick or a college football playoff pick, maybe even a dark horse to get to Atlanta. But I wonder what your sentiment is on the Gamecocks as they replace his weapons. They've got to figure out the running game around Lenora Sellers. Like, where do you slot South Carolina in as we start tonight's episode?
I think this tier at the bottom of the contenders is about where they should be because they proved that they have the most important position on the field figured out. They've got a quarterback. They've got Lenora Sellers, who's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. You mentioned the run game. Rocket Sanders gone, obviously, but I love Rashal Faison from Utah State. I think that was a fantastic pickup in the portal. They need a wide receiver to step up. We've been waiting for a couple years for guys like Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett to figure it out and kind of put the talent, translate the talent that they naturally have to actual production on the field. I think the offense is going to be okay, though. I think that they'll figure it out. They will have a great run game. I think they'll do just enough in the passing game to figure it out and put some points on the board. Where I'm really worried, guys, is the defense because more so than Lenora Sellers last year, I think the identity of that South Carolina team was that front seven. They were just nasty, got up in your face, were making plays in the backfield left and right. They lost 9 guys on the defense to the NFL, 5 draft picks and 4 undrafted free agent signings. That's unheard of outside of places like Athens, Georgia, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Columbus, Ohio. So for me, that's the biggest question. How can they replace all that production? Bill Connolly has them at 46% returning production. They didn't exactly bring a ton of guys in from the portal that have starting experience. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they can transition to this year and replace all that talent that they lost.
Yeah, Lance, it feels like it's an age-old story when it comes to the SEC, where we're constantly bringing in a bunch of new talent, tremendous new faces every season, but it takes a special coach, it takes a special program to put all of that together. Obviously, on the defensive line, you've got a guy, an all-star in Dylan Stewart, who's going to be screaming off the edge, right? But your defense is much more than just edge pressure by itself. They've got some returners in the secondary. I guess my next question for you is, what do you think about Shane Beamer? How have you evaluated him over these last couple of years? We've seen some real flashes, and last year was certainly one of them. But with so much turnover heading towards the Gamecocks for this season, really, it's been a few coaches that you can kind of count on one hand, right, in the league in recent history that have been able to weather those storms and still churn out a championship performance. Talk to me about your temperature on the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I have to agree there with Trey on the defensive side of the ball, like the defensive front, like South Carolina. Like we know that Georgia, Alabama, and some of those teams have just next man up when they lose the type of talent that South Carolina just lost. We're going to find out how good that Shane Beamer and this coaching staff is, and defensive coordinator Clayton White, how good they are at talent acquisition and developing that talent. That is really going to be tested on the defensive side of the ball this year. I mean, they were top 5 in the SEC last year in tackles for a loss and sacks and interceptions and things that are really game-changing type plays on the defensive side of the ball. They were that good on that side. So, I mean, I agree too. The offense, I'm not worried about that. I mean, Sellers is the type of player, maybe more so than anybody else in college football, that can truly take a team and put them on his back and take over a game. He, at the end of the day, the defense isn't working. This is not working. It's kind of like the Mariano Rivera, the old cutter. Just throw the cutter every time until they hit it. I mean, we can talk about all this with the defense and that they may not have the weapons on the receiver and things like that, but Sellers can take over a game himself. But if South Carolina wants to be able to make the college football playoff and be a 10-2 type team, they're going to have to maybe not necessarily be as great as they were defensively last year, but they definitely need to uh, find some guys that can put up some type of production and, take place of some of the production that they lost.
Yeah, 12th in scoring defense a season ago, 16th in total defense. There's no doubt that Beamer's boys pitched a lot of really complete games on the defensive side. Offensive line, they return a couple of tackles. They're a little bit young in the interior, though. I do wonder about their ability to establish that running game to help Lenora Sellers maybe balance out the offense a little bit. But Lance, you're right. I mean, gosh, no team, no fan base saw what Lenoris could do better than the Texas A&M Aggies when Lenoris, it felt like, broke every single one of the 28 missed tackles that the Aggies had that night in Columbia. It was as frustrating a watch as I think Trey and I have sat through. And that's saying something. We've sat through a number of just mind-numbing losses by our team, but Lenoris does feel like he could be the next special quarterback in the SEC, right? I mean, you heard on SEC Media Days, Cam Newton comparisons, Tim Tebow comparisons, right? From a toughness, from a physicality standpoint, and now it really seems like from a leadership standpoint as well, Norris is kind of ascended to that next level. So a very easy guy to root for. I think an easy program to root for, assuming you're not, a Clemson fan. But what worries me or concerns me is I think South Carolina could take some nice steps offensively. I think they could mature as a team. I think the defense could be good to above average, maybe taking a step back from last year, but still serviceable in getting South Carolina to that next level. What concerns me, though, is the schedule. The schedule is they don't miss many challengers in the SEC, right? And specifically on the road this year at
Yep.
Missouri, at LSU, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M. You flip it around to the home schedule. Sure, they open with Vanderbilt and Kentucky, who you assume they'll take care of. But then it's Oklahoma, it's Alabama, it's Clemson at the very end of the schedule. They didn't get in at 9-3 last year, and that was a hotly debated topic. But I have to admit, as much as I think I'm eating some crow on Shane Beamer as a coach and starting to buy some stock in the overall longevity of this program, I'm having a hard time saying that they're going to the playoff this year.
Well, and it's not just the teams they do play, it's when they play them as
Sure.
well, because all those teams you mentioned, they're backloaded at the end of the year. The first 5 games are pretty manageable. I wouldn't be shocked at all if South Carolina's sitting there at 5-0 after the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. But the last 7 games, they have a 4-game stretch where they go at LSU, host Oklahoma, host Alabama, and then go to Ole Miss. They finally have a bye week, which is just merciful at that point. And then at A&M, hosting Coastal Carolina and hosting Clemson. 6 of their last 7 could legitimately be against top 25 teams. And that's just brutal sequencing. If they find a way to 9-3, they're going to be right there on the bubble. And I think maybe getting the benefit of the doubt with all the clamoring with strength of schedule this offseason. So finding a way to 9-3 would be awesome. I struggle to see that path with the sequence that they have at the end of the year, though. I'm seeing this more kind of on the 7-5, 8-4 line.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. 8-4 was something that I was kind of flirting with myself on them. And you think too, last year, I mean, Williams-Brice is obviously a very tough place to play, but they lost even 2 home games last year. When they lost to LSU, I know some people can say that was a bad call that ended up costing them that game, but they lost that game. They got boat raced by Ole Miss at home. So if they don't hold serve at home, going to places like Baton Rouge, going to College Station, having the road games like that you were just alluding to, that's going to be tough to get to that 10-2 or possibly 9-3 to even be considered for a playoff spot.
I've got them at 8-4 this season as well, and I think as much as that would be disappointing for the folks that are, fueling the playoff bandwagon right now, I think it's how you win and lose those games that determine how you roll into 2026, right? I mean, gosh, more than ever, this game and program building turns on a dime, and you have one bad season and you lose all the momentum. I think a coach that has the buy-in like Beamer and has objectively given this program a facelift, right? I mean, they were down and out for a number of years, just never really considered to be at the top echelon of college football over these last several most recent seasons. He's put them right back in that conversation, and now they're recruiting well, and they're bringing in, maybe not a lot of talent from the transfer portal, but they're certainly picking and choosing at various spots. And like I said, I've done a little bit of a heel turn on Beamer, and at one point I thought it was maybe a house of cards that he was building. I think there's a nice foundation that he's building in Columbia. So South Carolina will be an interesting watch this season. There's no doubt about that. Lenora Sellers, can he get into Heisman discussion? That will be a fun storyline as well.